Kakadia. He is from Bhavnagar, and he is well known to most of us all over India. And in fact, he has a good name for his scientific mind outside India too. He did his MS from Baroda in 1989. He is not only an ophthalmologist, he is an electronics engineer and a lawyer, LLB also. He started his practice in 1990. He does all eye surgeries except probably retinal surgeries. He has done a lot of research on intraocular lenses, OVDs. He has his own homemade excimer laser. Can you believe it? He has a patent for his Omniclo Glow enhancer, and he has set up his own IOL factory. He is waiting for some more patents to be granted. Not only this, he writes novels and poetry in Gujarati. His daughter is even more brilliant. She cleared her MD in 3.5 months, 3.5 months in USA. She's in charge of COVID-19 ICU in New Jersey now. His son is in the final MBBS. So with that short introduction, I know I'm not doing justice to him. I'd ask him to share his screen and start his talk on his innovations in the lockdown era.
Thank you, Dr. Mukesh. And first of all, my pranam to the three gurus present here, Dr. Vasavda, Dr. Piyush Bhai, and Dr. Sanjay Gadre. And I'm very happy to share today my lockdown innovations. Sorry, my slides are moving.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when my clinic was inaugurated, Pujya Pramukh Swami, my guru, gave me I5 mantra. That is idea, keep on generating ideas, innovate, then indigenize, then integrate into your practice with integrity. This is my hospital in Bhavnagar, and I'm a good writer. My 4 books are already published. And I have almost finished writing 8 books during this lockdown period, especially mention about Veer Savarkar. On 14th January at Makar Sankranti, I was at his house while I was writing the book. And then on 26th January, I was at Cellular Jail. And I visited his cell. And in fact, I locked myself in the cell and I prayed him that Tatya मुझे आप 2 महीने का लॉकअप दे दो तो मैं जेल में बैठे बैठे आपके बारे में जो बुक्स लिखना है वो खत्म कर सकूं. Otherwise, I am not getting time in my practice. And somehow he heard it, and he said today in the morning in my dream that you wanted a lockup, but I gave you a lockdown. And I'm also a good photographer. This is my recent photographs named Jijvisha, and my Guru Pujaman Swami Maharaj, and my another Guru during the lockdown period, my wife, who taught me so many dishes. And I would like to begin with stating Einstein that creativity is contagious and pass it on. And he also said that creativity is the supreme bliss for our intelligence. Sorry. That is surgeon is the Param Nijanan, and surgeon here you can mention, take it up as Hindi as well as English. And I'm lucky to be the neighbor of Einstein where he lived. This is the place where he lived for many years. And Mukesh, can you please mute the other microphones? And this is the place where his office used to be. Now, what is the difference between invention and innovation? Now, when something is invented for the first time, it is invention. But then improvements in an invention is through a series of innovations. For example, in our own field, when Dr. Harold Ridley invented the IOL, it was invention. But then through a series of innovations, we have reached to this modern day IOL. Same way for Dr. Charles Kellman, when he invented his first phaco, it was an invention, but then there was a series of innovations to bring us here. So innovation is always a joint effort of many hands and many brains. And as Edison has said, there's always a way to do it better. You just have to find it. And innovation could be as simple as, I mean, as complicated as making an examiner laser at home, or it could be as simple as making a frame by Luhar to hold all your foot switches together, so that when you shift from right to the left temporal or oblique incision, all your foot switches always move in sync without you losing your reference between your right and left foot and the ergonomic position. Now, during this lockdown, I had one camera, which was a Sony Handycam Real 3D, having two channels, the right and the left channels. So what I thought was that let me remove the head of one of my old slit lamp and replace it with this 3D. So now I have a 3D digital slit lamp, so I don't have to go near to the patient. Only an assistant can focus, and I can see it on my 3D TV. Only I have to go and touch the patient if I have to do some procedure. And as in 1942, Gandhiji had given an agitation of Bharat Chodo Quit India movement. Modi Sahib has given us 56 56 इसकी छाती वाले ने 56 डेज का लॉकडाउन दे दिया है. तो कोरोना को क्विट इंडिया करना है. कोरोना को क्विट इंडिया करने के लिए एक तो ये सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग है, और I think the right word should be physical distancing rather than the social distancing. And in our fight with corona, we also have to learn that it's not going to go very soon. So we have to learn to live with corona. So, and because the Chinese population will not stop eating these exotic live foods, so every 9 to 10 years there will be a relapse of corona 3 or some other such viruses in future. So we must learn. And let us learn a little bit about this virus before we proceed further into my talk. This is a virus which is having spikes, so that's why the name is corona. And it is pleomorphic like potatoes, and it is having spike like the concorda, or something like this, which I received on my 30th wedding anniversary. And the average diameter of this virus is 120 nanometers, and in case of an oval shape, the minimum is 60, maximum is 160 nanometer. It has a single genome, which is a positive phase strand RNA with almost 30,000 bytes of nucleotides, which is capable of producing 9,860 amino acids. Compare that with the human body, which only produces 20 amino acids. And this is the reason why this virus can infect us and produce a chemical locha known as cytokine storm. And this Lancet study has given a very nice idea how many hours or how many days the virus lives on various surfaces. And it's very interesting to know that on paper and tissue paper, it lives only for 3 hours. That is the shortest. And on cotton cloth, it lives for 24 hours. On copper, also 4 hours. Whereas on paper currency, it is 4 days. But outside of surgical mask, it can live up to 7 days. Now, remember these data so that when we talk about the UVology and maskology in my future slides, just remember this will be very important in future. And I never knew that there's an entire science known as maskology so far till this lockdown. It's only now that I came to know that there's a diploma course available in maskology, because there are 700 plus types of masks for various purposes, and there are also fancy masks, and there are also masks for theatrical act, as well as there are very nice masks which are made for prosthetic purpose. So the maskology in itself is an entire science which we never knew. And when I started going deeper into the Mask India movement, and when I operated this child during he had both eyes white mature cataract, so we had to operate him during the lockdown. And he became so much adapted to the mask that I thought, let me dig deep into the mask also. But before that, I would like to let you know what I have done in the ultraviolet field. Because ultraviolet UVE-logy itself again is another science. There is ultraviolet energy science. And almost entire pharmaceutical industry in their parenteral preparation injections plants, they use ultraviolet light. And the entire food industry, especially the fruit and the vegetable industry in the Western world, is using ultraviolet light to disinfect the fruits. Even the rotis can be cooked by using ultraviolet light. And as we know that ultraviolet light is the light which is between the X-rays and visible light electromagnetic spectrum, and it has been proven that 254 nanometer is lethal to coronaviruses. There has been no study about COVID, SARS-CoV-2, but for SARS-CoV-1 and for swine flu, it has been completely proven by more than 27 or 28 peer-reviewed studies. And here I would like to remind and pay respect to Dr. Niels Finsen, who received Nobel Prize for Physics and Physiology and Medicine in 1903. And it was he for the first time who proved that 280 to 100 nanometer wavelength radiation is certainly lethal to all microbes. That is fungi, bacteria, and viruses. And even the microbe as tough as Mycobacterium tuberculosis gets killed in UVC light in 14 to 15 minutes. Even Clostridium velsa and Clostridium difficalis spores, they die in 14 to 15 minutes. And all pharma companies use UVC tubes for their formulations and injections manufacturing plant because they cannot afford to use chemical disinfection and contaminate their batches. So based on Niels' research on UV light, there was an era in which solarium TB hospitals came up everywhere, and solarium hospitals were so designed that the windows would filter and concentrate the UV light on these reflectors, and these reflectors would reflect down the UV light onto the patient, and that is how the TB was getting cured for many number of patients. And there were rotating solarium also invented, which would move according to the sun's direction during the day. And if those of you who have studied in MP Shah Medical College, Jamnagar, must be knowing that even today there is one solarium. Of course, it's not functioning, but there was a solarium in there. So in fight back against COVID-19, how can UV light help us? You know, as soon as the UV light photons strike the virus, they destroy the spike proteins, which are the glycoproteins. And once the spike proteins are destroyed, the virus is as good as बिच्छू जिसका कांटा निकाल लिया हो, या तो एक सांप जिसको मदारी जो है दांत तोड़ के निकाल देता है. So it becomes an important virus. And the reason, I mean, once they lose this spike, it no more remains infectious because they cannot enter into the cell. Because for endocytosis, these spikes are absolutely necessary to engage on the ACE2 receptor. The second mechanism of action for UV to induce death of the virus or the bacteria is that it induces ozonization. That is, two molecules of oxygen becomes ozone, that is O3, and one oxygen is released free oxygen ion, which is known as nascent oxygen, which has a very high affinity for oxidizing anything in the contact in which it comes. So it kills the bacteria or the virus immediately, like chlorine. And the nascent oxygen has 7 electrons in its last orbit, same as chlorine, so they are missing 1. So they'll snatch 1 electron from any material in which contact in the contact in which it will come. And the name itself suggests nascent, that is from nose and scent. So this nascent oxygen actually smells exactly like chlorine. And an inactivated virus can work as a natural vaccine. Once you destroy the spike proteins of a virus and then allow this virus to be spreaded in the nature, it is as good as its own vaccine. And this is how the epidemic of SARS-1 and epidemic of the swine flu died its natural death, although the medicines were not found. So this is what is going to be happening with this virus also. The sunlight and the UV radiation will destroy most of the spike proteins of the viruses which are outside on the roads and on the environment, and they will ultimately go into the respiratory system of us and it will immunize us. So these sun-dried or UV-dried, semi-dried viruses are going to work as natural vaccine. And number of studies have come up in US, Europe, and China that UV disinfection is most efficient, much more than the commercial, than the chemical. So now in China, almost every hospital is equipped with UV light, and there are UV robots which would run at a slow pace in the corridors and in the rooms. And even they have made UV tunnels for disinfecting their public transport buses from outside as well as from inside. They have fitted UV lights inside the buses, inside the coach, and even the entire metro trains have been fitted with UV lights inside. And this is a metro coach which is being irradiated with UV light. This is not fixture, but this is what they are doing every evening. This is a coach of the metro train. This is the robot which is put in the airport lounge, which keeps on moving and keeps on sterilizing. Many of their airports, they have upgraded with UVC light roof. And even the aeroplanes are being fitted with UV lights. And even there are trolleys, like the food trolleys in the plane, which will move in the aisle, in the galley, from front to back and back to front to disinfect the plane before the new batch of passengers board the aircraft. And even the aircraft toilets are now being fitted with the UVC light. And even the ambulances are being fitted, even the operation theaters. So what I did was, after studying so much about the UV light, of course, I had the UV lights in my operation theater. Since 1993, we never used chemical fumigation. But then studying this, we fitted UV lights, 50 UV lights all over our hospital. And here I would like to bring your attention that these tube lights are transparent. And there is a mention here about its quality, I mean, that is UVC. It is made by Philips, made in Holland and imported in India. And the glass is fused silica quartz, which is transparent for the ultraviolet light to come out. The normal tube light is not transparent for UV light to come out. This one is transparent for UV light can escape. And it contains mercury and it also contains argon fluorine. So argon fluorine mercury, this is an excimer light. Just like the excimer laser, this is an excimer light at 254 nanometer. The only difference between this and the excimer laser is that the laser will be a coherent beam with all the photons in phase, all the photons in one direction, whereas this is non-coherent and dispersive and diversive beam. Otherwise, this is as good as an excimer light. And this is the illuminated light. And here you can see that it flickers at a frequency of 60. So 60 times in a second, the electron jumps between the two electrons and it flashes. So it's a pulse light, pulse excimer light flashing at 60 hertz. And there are UV meters so that you can measure where in the room how much is the concentration of the UV light. And there are dosimeters which are card based, so it will indicate from yellow to orange to red when it receives enough amount of UV radiation. And also there are other kind of dosimeters, various kind, which turns green. This one is control and this one is the affected this thing. And you can smell the ozone. And you can also, as soon as you start, within 45 seconds, you can start smelling the ozone, as well as you can start smelling the protein burning. When the viruses, they burn, when the bacteria, they burn, they produce the smell, exactly the smell which is when you do excimer laser of the cornea, or when you burn a body in smashan, protein putrefaction smell, jo aata hai, exactly the same smell you get within 45 seconds once you do. And this is the UV in our operation theater and in our retina operation theater, in our LASIK theater, in our waiting room, and in our OPD consultation room, in our counseling room, in our refraction room, everywhere. Even on every door we have fitted the UV, so that the door UV light itself will illuminate the handle and disinfect the handle continuously. And when the door opens, the other side of the handle also gets an exposure of the UV before the door closes. And we have set all the hydraulic door closers to a slow mode so that
we need to summarize.
Give me 1 or 2 more minutes before I can finish this UV and
half a minute.
Yeah, right. Okay. So UV is fitted everywhere in the stairs, even in the lift, and even the lift buttons we have adjusted with the shining of the edge. So you can say that my hospital is now Akshadip Eye, instead of Akshadip Eye Hospital, Akshadip UV Hospital. Wow. And this is the UV light, UVC, I think I already. Now here I want to make you a differdifferentiation that UVA is different. This is only for fluorescence. UVC is germicidal, and UVA is usually used in the discotheque for illuminating the fancy dresses of the people. And I think the talk is pretty long, and there are too many things to talk, but we can interrupt. And then later on, if the time permits, we can continue with it. Otherwise, some other day. Thank you very much, Dr. Mukesh.
Thank you so much, sir.
For patience.
And we're amazed. The whole world is in a standstill, locked down, and there is nothing stopping you from doing all this.
Mukesh, in this 1.5 months, I have done so much of research that I pray you that you give me a few more minutes after Dr. Vasavda's lecture is over.
We'll try, sir, definitely. And
if it is permitted.
Yeah, we'll try. And
in fact, I've done, please. In fact, I've done so much of work during this 1.5. I need an entire webinar for myself.
Yes, sir. We are working something on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And just one quick question. Your mind right now thinks like a scientist first or a clinician first?
No, I am an absolute scientist for this 1.5 months. I have not gone to the clinic except for some emergency cases.
No, in general, all this.
I don't know. I have been traveling everywhere in Bhavnagar, and I got a permission from collector, from the health secretary. So I am in connection with Engineering College, with Central Salt and Marine Chemical Research Institute, and I am working in the Corona ward also, and I'm working in the microbiology and virology laboratory, which has been set up in Bhavnagar Medical College. So I have been more busy than I was during my clinical practice for this. Right. And as I said, one of the research is in vitro phase at present, but UV killing the viruses is something like if you can kill tuberculosis in the lungs, you can kill these viruses in the lungs, and that is the machine which we have developed at Bhavnagar Medical College. I don't have the permission to announce it officially or show the machine, but that's what I was saying in the beginning, that it can.
I think we need a separate session on your UV work.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.